And good evening. Welcome to our University of Dubuque football show here on this Monday night from Chalmers Field, the site of the home of the Spartans here. And we're going to be talking about the first loss of the season for the Spartans, unfortunately, as they fell to a very good co-football team this past Saturday during homecoming, 23-12 right here at Chalmers Field. And we're going to look ahead. The Spartans will try to rebound this week as they'll make their longest road trip of the season other than the Pacific game, as they'll be headed to Storm Lake to take on the Buena Vista Beavers in a matchup that will be a 1 o'clock kickoff from Storm Lake, and we'll be on the air here on the river at 12:40. So we'll be talking about that tough University of Dubuque loss as Coe's defense able to lock down the Spartan offense, especially in the second half, or at least a combination of Coe's defense and some missed opportunities on the Spartan side. And Coach Zweifel is going to be in to talk all about that coming up in just a moment. But there's still 3 games to play, still lots of football to be played in the Iowa Conference, so anything can happen. And that's what the Spartans are hoping does occur, anything happening. And still plenty of season to play, plenty of football to be played. And so the Spartans will be back in action here with the game coming up on Saturday as they take on the Buena Vista Beavers. And we'll be back. We'll visit about the contest this past Saturday, the loss to Coe, and we return with Coach Zweifel after this. You're listening to UD Spartan Football on 101.1 The River. And we're back on this Monday night here at Chalmers Field, high above Chalmers Field, in fact, where we do our University of Dubuque football show here from the President's Box. And joining me right now is the head coach of the Spartans, Stan Zweifel. And Stan, of course, it's never pleasant to talk about a loss, especially one that knocks you out of first place in the Iowa Conference. But, tip of the cap to Coe. They yes. played very well defensively yes. and able to limit you to just 27 yards in the second half and dropping the first game of the season. So, Coe had a great game plan, and they executed pretty much to perfection and played well.
Yeah, I really would tell you this. It's probably the least amount of yards we've had in the second half that I can recall for a long, long time, and hats off to them. I think there are a couple things that happened in that start of that game. We had really had over 200 yards in the first half, and we really felt like we were doing things correctly in the first half. We left a couple points on the field. And, Tim, we haven't tried many field goals, nor are we going to try many field goals. We have not been able to be as consistent as we'd like to be, not only in games but in practice. And, Tim, I base everything what we do in a game off how we practice, and we've just struggled a little bit in the field goal part of it. And as a result, we didn't go for a couple field goals in short yardage areas in the red zone. We continued to try to score, and we did get one in, and then we got another one in a situation. But the missed extra point really ended up, we were chasing that thing for the whole game. Whatever that means, Tim, we were. It was just a point, but it changed, I thought, how they were able to close the game at halftime to make it 12-7 instead of being 14-7 or whatever that may be at that time. So that part hurt us, I think. And then they made a heck of an adjustment in the second half. And I mean by a heck of an adjustment, they played the same front end coverage in the second half, but played it much better. But I also think this, Tim. They reminded me so much of a wishbone team in that they continued to pound the ball the whole entire game. And they did wear our defense out, and I think you can see that in the fourth quarter with their multiple play drives, 14-play drive, 12-play drive, and 11. And a combination of things happened in that second half, Tim. I think the biggest one was, as you mentioned, we weren't able to stay on the field offensively. We were 3 and out 3 consecutive times, where I think the most important time was to give our defense a rest. And we had the wind at that time also, Tim, chosen by us, because I never wait till the fourth quarter, because you don't know by the fourth quarter you might be out of the game. So you take the wind in the third quarter, and I'll be gol dang, we couldn't take advantage of the wind. And then they just continued to stay on the field, and they featured the Heitland kid, who is the best back we've faced so far this year, without a doubt. Their offensive line gets him 3 or 4 yards, and then he gets 3 or 4 on his own. I had told you last Monday that the big key to this game was to limit him from making a big play, and I'll be gol danged if we didn't do that. We did it to perfection. I thought our defensive Staff put together a very outstanding game plan. Had we done our part on offense, I think we win that game. And as I mentioned, we left some points on the field early in the game. We were not able to get back to it. Again, like I said, hats off to Cole for playing an outstanding football game defensively. And then there came a big play in the third quarter where we ran a fake punt, Tim, which that came after our third possession, our third straight 3-and-out. And we had planned all week, observing film on those guys over the past 3 weeks, that we thought they had a weakness in their punt coverage team. And we went to call a fake punt about at our 39-yard line on our hash. Had planned it all dang week. Almost identically practiced it to the same area on the field.
And you got the look you wanted.
It sure did. We had the line we wanted, and we saw it from the time before right in front of us, and we ran it, and it did not work out. Now, hey, let me tell you this. Big risk, big reward. I told our guys, our staff meeting, I told our players the same thing. Good decision, bad result. And so sometimes when you make those kind of plays where you think you're going to have a chance to get some momentum back to your side of the ball, it just didn't work out. And so with that being said, we talked about all the things that happened on Saturday, and of course you can't change any of them on Sunday, Tim. I thought we were inaccurate at times. I thought our quarterback looked a little bit hurried in the pocket. He did get hit a couple times. We probably didn't pass pro as well as we'd like to, and we surely didn't run the ball as well as we'd like to. But all those things being said, now we got to get back in the saddle and get over there and get ready to play BV.
Let's rewind, go back to the first half of the ball game. A great start, and it was started by your defense. Another takeaway, and you turn that into points.
Which we have all year,
Michael
Tim.
Joseph just continues to shine for you this season at that cornerback spot.
What a good player he is, and what we don't see in statistics is the disruptions he makes. Guys not throwing the ball to him. The interceptions he makes, but he did an unbelievable job in run support on Saturday. A lot of his runs that were 3, 5, 7, 2, 6, 4, the Heitland kid, we did a heck of a job with our secondary preventing those runs for getting longer, because the biggest concern I had in going that game is when that kid got in the second and third level, he had housed a lot of people. And our secondary continued to rally to the ball. And, Tim, I've talked about this all season. Our defensive staff, led by Coach Coleman, has done an outstanding job of getting those guys to play hard and run the football, because that takes care of a multitude of mistakes. A missed tackle, not getting off a block properly. When your defense rallies to the ball and they have that mentality, you're always going to have an extra hat on the ball. Unfortunately for us, heck, they just kept, as I said, 2, 5, 6, whatever that was he had, he just kept pounding and pounding. We had a number of third and shorts and number and fourth and shorts in that possession. Isn't it interesting how many people went for fourth down in that game? Holy balls, I was saying to myself, everybody's going for fourth down. I don't know what's going on. I think there were 12 attempts.
Yeah, you were 4 for 8. They were 2 for 4.
Yeah, so, a lot of fourth down attempts. And I think what everybody felt in that game, our sideline, their sideline, was every possession was just, you don't know if you're going to get the ball back or not. So I think they thought every possession was very valuable. And the wind had a factor in the kick game. Tim, you weren't going to kick the ball into that wind. And that's where we missed our extra point into the wind, and where we had, the first quarter where we could have conceivably tried some field goals, but we had a very stiff wind.
You scored again with 3 minutes to go in the second quarter, and
fourth down play
12-0, fourth down play.
2 fourth down plays again.
And as Jim and I mentioned during the broadcast, just felt like you should have been up a lot more at that time, just by the way your defense played, and just left some opportunities, like you said. And then came back, and just talk about their drive to get
we
a
talked
touchdown.
about this as a staff, because it was about 2:14 or 2:15 when they had the ball in that possession. And they started out with a play-action pass, and we had a sack, which would have been a 7 to 8 yard loss. Unfortunately, we slipped off that sack, and they got a 9-yard gain and got it out to about the 40-yard line. And then I thought they opened it up a little bit more. I really felt, as I talked to our staff at halftime, had we gotten that sack, they might have just ran the ball out to finish the half, and we could have went in at 12-0. But I will say this to you, Tim. It felt the exact same way to me. I look up at the scoreboard. We only have 12 points. We had been really driving the ball in the first half and really doing a great job throwing the ball. And I thought we had some really good matchups, and we were attacking their Tampa 2 defense, a defense where they dropped the Mike backer in the deep middle third. I thought we had a good plan. And even though we weren't able to run the ball really effectively, we were able to run the ball for yards and keep our, the head of the sticks a little bit, so to say. We're, 2nd and 6 or 3rd and 4, those kind of down distance. And in the second half, they took that completely away from us, Tim. We had 2 3rd and 2s in that first 2 drives of the second half, and we got stuff for losses on both. And that really affected me, I think, in that our ability to think we could run the ball.
In this game, you didn't hurt yourself with the penalty again. One time for 5 yards.
Yep.
So for the second straight week, you showed a lot of discipline on both sides of the ball.
Tim, I think we have played a lot better, cleaned up that some of the mistakes we make with penalties. But here's what I thought the big difference in that game was, Tim. When you look at from what we did, we have won and hung our hat on explosive plays. And they did a heck of a job of limiting the explosive plays. And so I think then you have to be able to run the ball a little bit more effectively and have your short game work. And we have an outstanding short game, Tim. It wasn't apparent on Saturday that we did, for whatever those reasons are, whether they're missed depths by our receivers or a little bit hurried by the quarterback. But that takes, a lot of just rhythm, and I don't think we were able to get into that kind of rhythm. So they did a great job of taking away explosives, but we did just the same thing. They had no explosives either. There were only like 3 explosive plays in the whole game, so it got down to kind of an old, really smash-mouth football game with them trying to run it, us trying to stop it, and us trying to find a way to get some offense generated. And we just weren't able to get enough in that second half, Tim. Proud of our men, how we competed. And again, I haven't said this, but we're a young football team. We're a very young football team. I told the team maybe we're a little bit ahead of schedule here in those first 6, but I do want to say this to you. We still have a lot of football left, as you mentioned. Tim, there's 3 conference games. Who knows what happened? Somebody gets hurt. That's a key player on a football team. Somebody gets hot. A terrible weather game. You just don't know what's going to take place. So our job is to get our men back on task, go out to BV and play the best game we possibly can.
As the game was starting to wind down, I mean, you're still just down one score in this football game, 20-12. You had the ball back, and take us through that last couple of minutes.
Well, first of all, Tim, they missed an extra point, and they opened the door for us.
They opened it up. That's right.
I'm on the sideline saying, men, there it is. There's our opening. We can tie this thing up and take it to overtime. Unfortunately, again, we started out with a pass that we had predicted and against their scheme would be an effective pass. Our receiver ran a little bit too deep. Our quarterback didn't have enough time. We missed it, and then we got into a situation where we're trying to match up G on a long one, and they get a pick. And then they go back down and drive down, and they're going to kick a field goal. And I'll be gol dang now, Tim, I don't know if you guys saw this from the box, but we get a guy free. Comes through B gap, their tight end blocks out, and C and opens up. It's like, oh, my gosh. Our kid comes to block it, and it goes right underneath his armpit. And
cinched his hairs.
I don't even know how it went through. But that being said, that's what happens in those games. You got to be able to make those plays. Now, I'm not saying we'd have went down and scored had it been blocked. What I was hoping we'd block it and pick it up and run it in to make it that game. But we had our chances, Tim.
Yeah.
We really did. Even after all that went in that game, we hung in there. And I was so proud of our guys because we have hung in there the whole year. And again, I think that'll only materialize as we go down the last 3 games, the effort that we put into that game.
You know, we say football is a game of inches. And
sure is.
There were sure a lot of examples of that on Saturday.
There really were.
But the Spartans set at 6-1. A lot of football to play, as we just mentioned. 4-1 in conference play, and they're going to be headed to Storm Lake to take on the Buena Vista Beavers coming up on Saturday at Lake Shore around the beautiful Storm Lake area. So Spartans will be on the road, and we're going to talk about that contest when we return with more of the UD Football Show with Stan Zwiefel right after this on 101.1 The River. We're back here on the UD Football Show with head football coach Stan Zwiefel here on a Monday night as the Spartans get ready to prepare for a trip to Buena Vista. They'll head out on a Friday evening and stay overnight and be in Storm Lake on Saturday to play the Beavers for a 1 o'clock kickoff. We'll be on the air here at 12:40. And, Coach, before we talk about Buena Vista, of course, the first loss of the season, and certainly some players down in the mouth after that ball game. So, talk about your job as coaches and your players' jobs after a loss.
One of the things that's interesting about this team is we're so dang young. I'm not sure they understand they were 6-0. You know what I'm saying? Here's what I always tell. I felt really bad for our players, because as a coach, Tim, I get to coach next year again, and some of our players don't. And so what you're always trying to do is explain to them the limited opportunities that this sport provides. Basketball, you play 32 games. Oh, my God. Holy cow, I'd like to coach 4 years and play 130 games. So, in all the other sports, you play a ton of games, and you play it multiple times in a week. In football, once time a week. And it isn't like basketball where you get the playoffs or you're in the top 6 teams or whatever the other sports are. You got to win the conference to get into the playoffs. So every game becomes so much magnified. Now, here's what I tell our guys every week. It doesn't matter what happened last week or the week prior or the next week coming up. What you really have to do is get those guys to buy into the plan that the next game is the most important game. It's the only game you play. And, of course, for us, Tim, reality knows that we cannot stumble again. We have to win out for us to have any opportunity to either have a share of the conference title or for anything happen to pass the regular season. And it's going to be a steep hill. I tell our guys all the time, I deal in reality. It's going to be a steep hill now, man. We've put ourselves a little bit disadvantaged. Is it over? Of course not. Absolutely not. But every game becomes magnified because of where we are in the season.
Well, your opponent, Buena Vista, playing pretty well right now. They've won a couple of straight ball games, put up some points in doing so.
Points,
48-24 win over Luther, and 34-24 in their previous outing over Loris after an 0-4 start. So where has the light switch gone off, I guess, for Buena Vista?
Yeah, first of all, they got a very difficult schedule, though. They play St. John's, and they had some very tough competition early. I feel like when we watch tape, the change that they made in quarterback 2 weeks ago has somehow sparked their running game. And their running back, Cody Mowry, is really good. I didn't appreciate how good he was until I watched tape on Sunday, and I watched every one of their games, and he is physical. He's got a gift like the Heitland kid that it's hard to get a square up shot on him. He's falling forward, and he's a big physical kid. He'll present some problems for us. The Cole Miller kid, the new quarterback, seems to be more efficient in his decisions. They're running a read option type of offense, but that kid's pretty smart. He gives it to Mowry all the time. That's a good move on his part.
Makes you look smart.
Yes, it does, because he's difficult inside the A-gaps. And when I first looked at the statistics and watched the tape, he is tremendous inside the tackles. And so they're going to attack you inside the tackles, and you're going to have to get an extra helmet on that kid. Now, I think we do that well, Tim. I really do, and I think we'll have a great plan up where we'll get an extra hat in the box. Now that allows you then you're going to have some man-to-man coverage type things, and they've got a couple really good receivers, and they're not throwing it as much as they did early in the season. I think that has helped them. It's helped their defense. They stayed on the field longer, and they become a more physical team doing that. And if you ask me what the biggest difference when I watch BV is, there's a mentality in the last 2 games that I didn't see in the previous 3 or 4, and that's because of the ability to run the ball inside the tackles. And they're a very well-coached football team. Jay does a heck of a job out there. Got a really aggressive defense. They got a great, unique coaching combination out there. As you know, Tim Jay's the head coach, and his father's his defensive coordinator. So that's really interesting. I think that's just wonderful that you have a chance to work with your dad in that kind of situation. And they always improved him. We've had big games against them. We've had close games against them, and it's always been they get better as the season progresses. So hats off to them on coaching. I think it'll be a very big game. And then they have an outstanding kicker. Tim, I think he's the best kicker in the league. I thought that 3 years ago when he beat us with a field goal as a freshman out there. At the end of the game, beat us on a 35, 36-yard field goal. Tyler Stolen, he's their punter and their kicker. I think he's been there for 17 years, but it's only 4. Feels like a long time, but he's back, and I think he, out there, Tim, it's like our place a lot. The wind can really be a factor, and he does a heck of a job with directional kicking and being able to kick against and with the wind. So I think he's a real big weapon in this game.
Mm-hmm. Just looking at their stats a little bit, they're a very good third down efficiency team. And as you mentioned, being a team that likes to keep time of possession, saw their second in time of possession. So first and second down going to be critical in getting them in third and longer situations.
Where they've been good in third down, Tim, is they're 3rd and 3 and 3rd and 2 a heck of a lot of the time because they're running the ball on you.
So first and second down.
Yeah, first side, we can knock them out a little bit, get them out of a normal down and distance. And then also I think, when you get in 3rd and short, you got to be able to make some plays. And it kind of, I think back on the game on Saturday against Cole, there were some times we could have got off the field. We weren't able to. That'll be our challenge this week, to try to get that thing that we can make the possessions, not let them have the ball quite as much. And then, of course, Tim, we got to do our share on offense now. We got to score some points. We got to get back to being our personality, what we are. I was really upset with myself, Tim, that I thought in that third quarter I wasn't as aggressive as I've been all year. And I've been aggressive now, Tim. I've been aggressive on throwing the ball deep on any down or distance, and I didn't think I was nearly aggressive enough on Saturday against Cole. We're going to rectify this coming Saturday. We're going to be aggressive as we possibly can and get the ball to our playmakers.
Mm-hmm. So, like you say, anything can happen on any given Saturday. Wartburg is at Central, Coe is at Luther, and Loris at Simpson. So those are the other games in the Iowa Conference. You need a little help now, as you mentioned, but that's not out of the realm of possibility in this
It
thing.
really isn't, Tim. And for us to look at help, I guess the first help has to come from us being able to take care of business. Now, BV is going to have something to say about that. They're going to be excited. Mm-hmm. They're looking for a chance to get over 500 in the conference, put themselves in the top 3 or top 4 in the league. And again, I think they'll really be excited. I think it's become a nice rivalry, us and BV. Mm-hmm. And, when I first got here, they said, wait till you go to BV. It's going to be 15 degrees below zero. It's going to be snowing. It's going to be 60-mile-an-hour winds. And every time I go out there, it's like the middle of summer, July and August.
Looks like the forecast looks pretty good this
exactly
weekend, too.
The same, I think. It's going to be another beautiful day. But I really like competing against Coach Anderson. I really respect him. I think he's a great guy, and I think their football program, to me, when we talk, here's how we talk about BV and the staff. They play hard. Mm-hmm. And that's a hell of a compliment for a coach if your team plays hard.
Yeah, as you mentioned, it's been competitive. You beat them last season by a fair amount out there, 44-13. Prior to that, though, contests have been close with BV winning the prior two.
Absolutely, and they beat us over here in a game after we went ahead with about 1 minute and 15 seconds left in that game. That's when I still remember that one, my friend. I still remember that. But, again, it has been a very competitive series between us and BV, and I expect the same thing to take place. It's going to be a physical game. We're going to have to make sure that we can stop Mowry and as we mentioned earlier, try to put those guys in some situations where they don't like to be.
Coach, before we let you go, anything else you want to add before we turn you loose for this Monday night?
Yeah, I really did feel on Saturday night, oh, my gosh, the end of the world. It's, oh, my Lord. That you wake up Sunday, the sun does shine, you go see those kids, and those kids are they want to do better. They want to win on Saturday. Mm-hmm. Our job is to get them back playing as hard as we possibly can and see what happens.
It was great to see all the Spartan fans turn out
what a
for
great
that game,
crowd.
too.
Yeah, great crowd. It really was a nice crowd and a great atmosphere. And the wind did become a little bit of a factor in kick game, but overall, I didn't think it played much into that contest. Yeah. Of course, when you carry a guy give the ball 51 times, the wind really isn't a very big factor.
No, not at all. Coach, good luck bouncing back this week. We'll talk to you later this week, and we'll see you out in Storm Lake.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Buena Vista Beavers are the opponent next for the University of Dubuque Spartans. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Tim, thank you.
This is the UD Football Show on 101.1 The River. We'll continue with more right after this here on 101.1 The River. And we're back here on the UD Football Show. Thanks again to head football coach Stan Zwiefel for joining us on this Monday night. And again, UD Spartan football coming up on Saturday here on 101.1 The River. And you'll be able to listen to it on the River's website as well, 1011theriver.com, and also You can link to the University of Dubuque's website, too. It'll have the audio as well from out in Storm Lake as the Spartans take on the Buena Vista Beavers. And wanted to mention the Spartan Nation Fan Rewards mobile app. You can find the app on the Google Play Store. Search that out for Spartan Nation Fan Rewards, and it'll keep you posted on the events. Also, it's got a link to the live streaming that we've been talking about, where you can watch the Spartans and listen to them on 101.1 The River. You can collect rewards and keep track of the leaderboard as well. Again, Spartan Nation Fan Rewards mobile app from the University of Dubuque. And so thanks to Coach Sweefel again for coming by tonight. Thank you for listening to our broadcast. We'll be back here next Monday night at 6 o'clock with the UD Football Show, and we'll be talking about the game between the Spartans and Buena Vista, and then looking up the next opponent, which on the calendar after that, it will be the Wartburg Knights coming here to Chalmers Field. But first game's first, that is this Saturday at Buena Vista. And we'll be on the air again about 12:40 with our pregame broadcast. So that's going to wrap it up for our UD Football Show for tonight. Saying goodnight from Chalmers Field, I'm Tim Larry on 101.1 The River.